When you dedicate your entire life to healing others, you might think you understand life and death. I used to believe that too, until the day I faced death myself. And in that moment, I realized there are things that science cannot explain, things that can only be felt with the soul. My name is William Carter, 70 years old, an internist who has devoted nearly 5 decades to medicine. My life revolved around long days at the hospital, emergency surgeries, and sleepless nights by my patients' bedsides. I believed in science, in numbers and research that had been repeatedly tested in laboratories. But God, a supreme being, I never put my faith in such things. To me, death was simply the termination of a biological system, nothing more, nothing less. I never married, never had children. My family, my friends, one by one, drifted away over the years. Not because they wanted to, but because I never had time for them. Work consumed my life, and I thought that was the best way to exist. The only companion I had left was Max, a small fluffy white dog. He was old now, his steps slower, but he still greeted me every evening when I returned home from the hospital. Perhaps Max was the only thing keeping me connected to the outside world, a world I had unknowingly abandoned. That morning, like every other, I woke up early, drank a strong black coffee, and drove to the hospital. I entered my office, turned on my computer, and reviewed patient records, numbers, test results, treatment plans. I knew that even the smallest mistake could put lives at risk. The room was quiet, with only the ticking of the wall clock and the rhythmic tapping of my fingers on the keyboard. Soft morning light filtered through the blinds, casting long shadows across the desk. I paused for a moment, rubbing my temples as a dull headache throbbed. Lately, I had been feeling more fatigued, but I assumed it was just the result of aging and overwork. I paid it no mind. As I reached for another patient file, a sudden, excruciating pain gripped my chest. The pain, a sharp, unbearable agony radiated from my heart, spreading through my body. I doubled over, gasping for breath, trying to reach for my phone, but my fingers trembled, unable to dial any numbers. My vision blurred, my legs lost all sensation. I heard the sound of files crashing to the floor before everything faded into a vast, endless darkness. Time seemed to stop. I could no longer feel my body. Yet strangely, I felt weightless, as if I were floating in space. An eerie sensation enveloped me. No pain, no fear, just absolute stillness. And then, I looked down and saw myself. I saw my own body lying motionless on the floor, my hand still gripping the edge of the desk. The door burst open and a nurse rushed in, shouting for emergency assistance. I watched them struggle to lift me onto a stretcher, attach a defibrillator, and inject medications. But it all felt distant, as if I were merely a spectator watching a film about my own life. And at that moment, something miraculous happened. As I hovered in the air, the scene before me abruptly shifted. The hospital room, the frantic nurses, the medical equipment, all of it vanished. Instead, I saw my entire life unfold before me like a slow-motion film. It all started with my childhood. I saw myself as a young boy growing up in a strict household, where success was not a choice but an obligation. My parents, especially my father, constantly pressured me to excel, never allowing me to fall behind. I felt the emotions I had once buried: pressure, fear of disappointing them, and the deep longing to simply play and be free from the weight of expectations. Then the scene transitioned to my years in medical school. The long nights buried in textbooks, the grueling exams, the first time I held a scalpel with trembling hands. I relived the moment of both pride and exhaustion when I graduated, the first time I donned a white coat, the determination in my eyes as I stepped into the hospital for my first shift. Next came memories of my patients, the successes and the failures. I saw the faces of those I had saved, the tears of gratitude, the embraces from their families. But I also saw those I couldn't save, the ones who, despite my best efforts, slipped away. I felt the weight of those losses, the sleepless nights spent wondering if I had done enough, and then regrets flooded in. I saw my family, the ones I had neglected for my career. I saw my mother growing older, waiting for me to visit but never receiving a call. I saw my younger brother who had tried to reach out, hoping to mend our relationship, only to be met with my indifference. I saw the missed birthdays, the holidays, the moments I should have been present for, but had convinced myself that work was more important. I felt everything: love, loss, joy, sorrow. These weren't just memories. It was as if I were living each moment again, experiencing every emotion as intensely as I had the first time. Tears fell silently. If I had a second chance, would I do things differently? As that thought crossed my mind, the images began to fade. A warm presence enveloped me, and then for the first time in my life I heard a voice, not stern, not judgmental, but filled with understanding. Do you have any regrets? A question I didn't know how to answer, but deep down I already knew. I remained silent, letting God's words sink deep into my mind. My life, 70 years of it, I had lived to heal, to help, to try to extend the lives of my patients. But now, standing before eternity, I realized that I had never truly understood life and death. Lord, if death is not the end, then what happens after? I asked, my voice hesitant. God looked at me with gentle eyes, as if he had been waiting for this question for a long time. Every soul has its own journey, William. Some choose to remain here, where pure light and love exist. Others return to the world, to learn the lessons they have yet to complete. And there are those who move further to realms beyond human comprehension. I was speechless. Then, my patients, the ones I couldn't save, are they okay? Are they angry with me? God smiled, and at that moment before my eyes, familiar faces began to appear. The woman I had tried my best to save but couldn't keep alive. The little boy who had fought bravely against a cruel cancer. The man who had died on the operating table, in a surgery I once believed I would succeed in. But none of them blamed me. They simply looked at me with gentle eyes, with a peace I had never seen in them while they were alive. No one leaves without a reason, William. Life and death are not in human hands but are part of a divine order. They do not blame you. They know you did everything you could, and now they have found peace. I felt tears rolling down my cheeks. A profound relief flooded my heart, as if the weight I had carried for so many years was slowly lifting. But there was still one thing that haunted me. What about my family, my sister, is she okay? God did not answer right away. He raised his hand, and instantly I saw an image of my sister before me. She was sitting alone in her small apartment, holding an old photograph of the two of us. Her eyes were red, her face filled with sorrow. I could feel her loneliness, the pain I had never noticed when I was alive. You spent your life saving others, but you forgot the ones who loved you most. God's voice held no reproach, only truth. My chest tightened. Can I go back? God looked at me for a long time, as if reading every thought in my mind. Do you want to go back, William? I looked at the light around me. It was beautiful, peaceful. No more pain, no more burdens. If I stayed here, I would never have to face my regrets again. But I couldn't let my sister continue to live in that loneliness. I couldn't let my apologies remain forever unspoken. I took a deep breath. If such a thing still existed here, yes, I want to go back. God nodded. Before you return, remember that your body is a gift you have been given. If you want to extend your time in the world, care for it as you would care for a soul. I looked at God, waiting for his teachings. Your body is not just a machine. It is a sacred part of life. If you wish to be healthy, you must nourish it in both spirit and form. Let your soul be at peace. Do not hold on to resentment or sorrow. Negative emotions will destroy you from within. Be mindful of what you eat, for food does not only sustain your body, it reflects how you treat yourself. Move, not to fight against aging, but to flow with the rhythm of life. And listen to your own breath, for it is the rhythm of your soul. I was stunned. I had known these things for a long time, but I had never truly understood them this way. Before, I had seen the body as just a system that needed fixing when it broke. Now I realized that my body was a part of my soul, and I had never truly cared for it in the right way. God smiled. Now return, William, and this time cherish what you have never cherished before. The light flared, enveloping me. I felt myself falling, faster, faster. And then, I opened my eyes. I woke up in the emergency room, the blinding light from the ceiling making me squint. The steady beeping of machines echoed in my ears. I could feel my body, the sharp pain in my chest, my heartbeat still weak, but gradually stabilizing. Around me, nurses and doctors bustled about, checking my vitals. A nurse leaned down, her eyes filled with both amazement and relief. "You were in cardiac arrest for 20 seconds, but now you're back," she said, her voice still trembling. 20 seconds. But for me, it had been an endless journey. I was no longer the same person. The doubt that had once consumed me had vanished. I had met God, had heard His words, and I knew it was real. When I shared my experience, some believed me. I saw their eyes light up, filled with questions and curiosity. But there were also those who doubted, dismissing it as mere hallucinations, caused by oxygen deprivation in the brain. I understood. If I were my old self, I might have thought the same. But I knew what I had seen, and that changed me forever. In the days following my discharge from the hospital, I felt as if I were living in an entirely new world. Everything seemed to have meaning. The people I met, the breeze that brushed past me, the sunlight streaming down, each carrying a message I had never noticed before. I had died once, but now I was given a second chance, and I couldn't waste it. I began sharing my story with my family and friends. Some listened with reverence while others nodded politely. But I could feel that, whether they believed me or not, my story had planted a seed of thought in their minds. I especially thought about my sister. She was the one person in my family I hadn't had the chance to say goodbye to before my heart stopped. I had seen her in my near-death experience, alone and grieving. And now that I was back, I knew what I had to do. When I visited her, she burst into tears the moment she opened the door. "You scared me to death." I pulled her into a tight hug. "I'm sorry, but I'm back, and I want you to know something." I began telling her about my experience. She listened in silence, her eyes red with emotion. When I finished, she didn't respond right away. She just held my hand tightly. "I don't know what to believe," she finally said. "But I know one thing. You've changed." And she was right. I had changed. I was no longer afraid of death, no longer haunted by things beyond my control. I wanted to live, not just to exist, but to share the light I had been given. I started dedicating more time to helping my patients, not just physically, but emotionally. I talked to them, listened to them, and helped them find hope even in the face of death. I realized that medicine wasn't just about healing the body, it was about healing the soul. One day, a patient asked me, "Doctor, do you believe in life after death?" I smiled. I don't just believe, I know it's real. And with every patient I met, I understood that my mission was not just to save people from death, but to help them see that death was not the end. I had died once, but now I was truly beginning to live. My near-death experience not only changed my beliefs, but also helped me understand the true meaning of life and health. From someone who once doubted, I realized that the body, mind, and spirit are deeply interconnected. To live a meaningful life, we must not only take care of our physical health, but also nourish our spirit and soul. I started paying more attention to my body, no longer seeing it as just a machine that functioned with the help of medicine and treatments. I learned to listen to the small signals it gave me, my heartbeat, my breath, even the slightest pain, because I now understood that health is a gift, and I have the responsibility to cherish it. I also learned to manage stress and nurture my soul. In the past, I lived under the constant pressure of work, of high-stakes surgeries and life-or-death decisions. But after returning from the edge of existence, I realized that beyond healing patients, I needed to heal myself. I began taking time for meditation, prayer, immersing myself in nature, and most importantly, appreciating every moment I was given. The relationships in my life became more important than ever. No longer did I put my career above my family or neglect the people who loved me. I learned to listen, to share, and to spend more time with those I cared about. My sister no longer had to endure her pain alone because I had returned, not just physically, but with a heart that had been transformed. And the most important lesson I learned: faith has a power greater than any medical treatment. I cannot force anyone to believe in what I have experienced, but I can share my story and plant a seed of hope in their hearts. I know that no matter the circumstances, whether facing illness or death, something greater always awaits us. I have died once, but in that very moment I truly began to live.